Good morning, everyone. I'm Mary Hemsworth from Caterer.com, and I'm having a catch up today with Nina Lovett and Joe Meredith from the Next Steps Virtual Redundancy Club. Good morning, both. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning, Mary. Good, thank you.
Very good.
Great. I'm really delighted to talk to you today because I think what you've created is so relevant for where we are right now. So, first of all, tell me, Joe, you have a background in hospitality. Tell me a little bit about your background before we get going.
Okay, Mary. So I started within hospitality at the age of 14. So I've had a very long career within hospitality. I started working in a pub kitchen washing up, and that then got me to go to catering college. And I actually started life as a chef, but not a particularly good chef. And then I sort of followed my path into human resources. So I've worked in human resources for many, many years. Before I became freelance, my last permanent role was at the Ritz Hotel in London. I was lucky enough to work at the Ritz. I was there for 14 years as HR director, and I've now been freelance, self-employed HR and L&D consultant for the past 2 years. So, yeah, so quite a long career within hospitality.
Absolutely. So you know what you're talking about, which is, you know,
I hope so.
The Ritz, one of my favourite places. But moving on, Nina, tell me a little bit about you.
Okay, well, my background's similar in terms of the age I got started. I worked as a waitress in a famous tea shop in Wiltshire on Saturday afternoons, aged 14, 15, 16, and got a real buzz for the whole kind of hospitality catering industry. And after graduating, I joined Hilton and had a wonderful career in sales and marketing for various different companies, lots of opportunities to travel and work overseas. And then training had always been important to me and developing people. So back in 2003 to 2005, I started looking at how I could bring my facilitation and coaching skills to the table. And since 2005, I've been a freelance facilitator and coach specializing in hospitality, hotels, venues, events, that sort of world.
Fantastic. And how did you two join up to become Next?
Do you want to say? Yeah, it's a long story. Go for it, Joe.
So Nina and I were both mentors for Oxford Brookes, and so we met through the mentoring program. And I was HR director at the Ritz at the time, and then Nina and her partner at the time in HT training came into the Ritz and delivered insights discovery to our leadership team and to our heads of department. So we became sort of colleagues and friends, and I was obviously a client from that point. So, and when I actually left the Ritz, Nina actually did some leadership coaching with me, which was very effective. So, and that led me to where I am today.
I love stories like that because it's all about different people in the hospitality, because hospitality is one big family. And it's about finding the members of your family, and then you can create really amazing things. And I think that's you hear that story so often. Now, that takes me neatly into the Next Steps Virtual Redundancy Club. The timing of this couldn't be more appropriate. We are living in very strange times, and redundancy has been happening right through the summer, and I think will continue over the winter. What prompted you to set up the club? Nina, we'll start with you.
Okay, I think this really came from a place of wanting to do something proactive for the industry that we know and love so much. It's been quite hard to sit on the sidelines watching some of our clients and our friends and our colleagues really struggle. Obviously, not everyone is struggling, but some are. And in terms of business and kind of dealing with the economy, really. So Joe and I had a few chats about this, and I just said, come on, we need to bring something. We need to feel that we're being proactive to help this industry that we know and love and the people we know and love. And that's really where it came from. Then we started having discussions about what can we actually do? What could we bring? And we felt it was really important to have business with purpose so that we felt connected to it, that we were doing something proactive that would benefit our colleagues.
And I think, I completely get that. And if you have those skills, it's fantastic to be able to share them at a time when people really need them. Joe, tell me a little bit more about what the club offers to those, because you say it's a virtual redundancy club. which I think again is that use of technology to reach out.
Yes.
So tell me a bit more about the club and what it offers.
So really, it's a structured development program over a 12-month period, helping people because, when you are made redundant, your development shouldn't stop. You've probably had your confidence knocked, and you need a self boost. So by joining the Next Steps club, we have a number of webinars that we hold every month, from career audit through to creating an effective CV, through to personal branding. So it really helps people with their development, and also it can be very overwhelming when you're made redundant. So we want to, work with our colleagues and work with people within the club to help them, set small, realistic goals that are achievable, to help them on their journey into finding alternative employment.
And then you talk about webinars, etc. What kind of things, Nina, does the club offer? How can members get involved? And I mean, one of the things I really like is the 10-point plan, which I thought was really great, the 10-point checklist for redundancy. But I mean, there are other things. There's that thing about emotional resilience, etc. How does the club address those kind of issues?
Yeah, so we're offering, it's kind of a broad spectrum really, but it falls into several categories. There's the ongoing development piece that's going to help you with your confidence, your motivation, and your resilience in terms of being unemployed. But there's also a piece around community and networking with people who are in a similar situation, so that you don't feel so isolated. And we're including tools like the 10-point redundancy checklist, a career audit tool. We're using the Clarity 4D psychometric tool so that people actually have a psychometric profile to help them kind of feel good about themselves, but more importantly, prepare for interviews, help them with their CVs. And actually, Joe's got a good story around Clarity, haven't you, Joe?
Yeah, so when Nina did my leadership coaching with me, I did my 4D Clarity, and as I said, I'd worked at the Ritz for 14 years, so my CV wasn't as up to date as it could have been. So my Clarity 4D profile actually helped me to write my CV and helped me to identify some of the skills that I have and make sure that they were written down on my CV. It can be really hard when, some people are very, very self-aware and others aren't, and they need, something to help them become more self-aware. And it's also about helping people to identify some of the skills that they have and how those skills can then be transferable, because I mean, let's face it, there aren't many roles in hospitality at the moment, so people might have to look elsewhere temporarily. So being able to understand what transferable skills they have could help them secure a role within another industry. And until we start recruiting again, then we obviously want everyone to come back to hospitality.
Exactly, we do. We absolutely do. Because there's that thing of, if a business in hospitality recruited someone in the first place, they must have been good. They must have been right for that role. Exactly. And because they've lost that role through no fault of their own, we want to keep them close, because we want to bring them back when we can. And I think that's so important.
Yeah.
I
wonder, have either of you two, I mean, I personally have experienced redundancy. Have either of you two experienced redundancy?
Yes, yeah, I have. I've experienced it a couple of times, and it was one of the kind of motivators for me to work for myself, actually, because I thought, well, if I make myself redundant, then, I'm ready to quit working. But yeah, I've been made redundant twice, and I think that experience makes this, I feel even more passionate about doing this because of the experience that I've had in the past. And it feels quite a lonely place, even though lots of your colleagues and peers might be being made redundant at a similar time. It does feel quite a lonely place, and all of a sudden your routine, your going to work routine, whatever that looked like, whether you did shift work or 9 to 5, is completely gone. And that whole feeling of self-worth and how you value yourself. So I really feel that what we're bringing to the table is going to help people address some of those real issues.
Definitely. And one of the things that you said, Mary, about, when people are made redundant, it's helping people understand that it's not their fault. It's unavoidable at the moment. And, people do take it very personally sometimes. I mean, being an HR professional, I've obviously been on the other side and sadly had to make people redundant, and I really try and stress to people, it's not you, it's your role and it's the situation. So, really trying to help reboost people's confidence, because it does knock people's confidence.
It really does. And I'm looking, you have some pointers which I really like, about emotional resilience and personal branding. And for me, the two things are kind of interlinked, which might sound a little bit strange, but if you look at your personal branding and you work on your personal branding, it can help build your emotional resilience. Do you agree with that? Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, if you're not confident in yourself, that's going to come across when you're going to future interviews. So by helping people understand how they can sort of create their personal brand and almost sell themselves to other employers, because there are hundreds of people out there looking for roles. In one of the clients I work with, we recently did advertise for a role. We had 800 applicants for a fixed term contract, which, in the past we'd have probably maybe had 20 or 30 if we were lucky. So, there is a lot of competition out there. And emotional resilience is very important, as we've already touched on, because people are going to have knockbacks, and it's how you can keep yourself motivated and keep yourself going. And you go through that curve when you're made redundant, the anger, the denial, the sadness, and it's how you come out the other side. And that acceptance part of resilience is very important. It's the most powerful part, because until you've got to that acceptance, it's then hard to move forward from that. So it's about how we can help and support people do that.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that you've just said. And I also think there's that you touched on the fact that your denial and anger, etc. And it's very hard to come up and start being proactive. What thoughts do you have about that for people who've been made redundant and who need to come up again and start thinking, I am worthy, I am going to get this job?
Yeah, I think people need to maybe just kind of get a piece of paper and a pen and just start writing down all the things that they feel most proud of in their career, just to start thinking, actually, I'm good, I can do this, rather than just thinking I've been made redundant and, nothing's great. Actually start with just a blank sheet of paper and a pen and just make a list of things that you're proud of that you achieved at work. And it can be really small things or it could be really big things. It doesn't matter. And then that then is a starting point, isn't it? And it's then thinking, okay, I've got to look at all the different areas in my life. And I think our redundancy checklist, our 10-point checklist, gives them some signposting towards things that they need to be looking at, things like finances, CVs, networks, their network, who do they network with, all that sort of good stuff, really. But I think if they start with a piece of paper and just write down things that they're really proud of in their career, that's a really good starting point.
Definitely. I know a lady who did a similar exercise, and she wrote down, what's good about her, what her values were, and she actually wrote 3 of those on her bathroom mirror with her lipstick. So every morning she could see, what her values were, to help her and remind her, because it can be very hard.
Yeah.
So get your lipstick out,
please. Your lipstick out. At the moment, I think sales of lipstick have plummeted because having to wear a face mask, nobody wears lipstick anymore.
No, they don't. No.
We're doing TV kind of thing, interviews.
Lip tint is the way to go with masks.
Oh, that's a good tip, Jo. That's a good tip.
We digress slightly there, but coming back to the point, networking, I think, is so important. On your 10-point redundancy checklist, you say reach out to 10 people in your network and let them know your situation. And I think that's very powerful. What prompted that? Was that a personal experience, or is that just really good sound advice?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I left the Ritz, I didn't actually realise how big my network was until I actually left. And, for me being self-employed, my network has obviously helped me, create my business. But I think as well, you might assume that people know that you've been made redundant, and they don't. So by reaching out to people, it makes them aware. So they might hear of an opportunity, or they might be able to help you or support you in some way. So it's really important to, LinkedIn is obviously very good. Some people use Twitter, Instagram. So whatever, platform you use, try and reach out to people so that they know that you've been made redundant, and they might be able to offer you some great advice that you hadn't ever thought of. So.
Exactly. And we've talked about the individual pretty much for the whole interview. Tell me a little bit about how employers can benefit from the Virtual Redundancy Club. How can they tap into it? Jo, Nina?
Jo, do you want to take that, Jo? Because you're quite close to this.
We have been speaking to many employers, and some of employers have wanted to offer outplacement programs for people they've made redundant, but they're very, very expensive. So we've been talking to employers about how we can help in that sense, and the 10 members that we currently have all come via employers, and we've had some really good feedback from employers. And I think as well, because they know, a lot of them know Nina and I as well, and know what sort of good development and support we'd be able to give people that join the Next Steps Redundancy Club. And it's really important to understand, Nina and I aren't in this to make money. Any profits that we made are going to be invested back into the club in the form of bursaries, so that we can help people that do are facing financial hardship.
I think that's so important. I mean, I've looked at the cost, and I think it's £150 if I remember correctly.
Yes, yes.
It's a good price, and a lot of people will be thinking, I've just been made redundant, I can't afford £150. But the benefit to employers of actually, as we started the conversation by talking about hospitality is having to let good people go, but we want to keep them close to bring them back. One of the benefits for employers, as I see it, is to get involved in the club and to support their people with ongoing learning and professional development, almost until such time as we can bring them back. Exactly. Is that sort of a fundamental of the club?
It is. And I had one employer say, actually, if in the future, when I'm looking to recruit people, if they've been part of the Next Steps Club, that would give them a real extra boost and an advantage in terms of employability, because it shows that they would be being proactive, which I thought was interesting. I hadn't even thought about that.
I think that is a really good point. It's a great point to end on. Do you have anything else you'd like to share today about the club?
No, I think Nina and I have got, regularly post on LinkedIn. So if people want to have a look at our profiles and, have a look at some of the posts that we've put out about the Next Step Redundancy Club. We also try and post sort of useful tips just generally for people in terms of emotional resilience and, how to tackle redundancy.
Great. That's fantastic. Yes. I'd like to thank you both for taking the time to talk to me this morning. Have a good rest of the day. Okay, Joanne and Nina, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much.
Mary. Thanks very much indeed.